The secret nightlife of Florida's wild chameleons. If reptiles had a secret society, the chameleon would be its most mysterious member. With eyes that swivel independently like miniature radar dishes, a prehensile tail that works like a monkey's fifth limb, and ballistic tongues that can launch at speeds rivaling a sports car, these lizards seem engineered more by science fiction than nature. Of course, their most iconic trick is color change. But despite the popular belief that they vanish into their backgrounds like little reptilian ninjas, that's not the full story. Chameleons shift their colors not to disappear, but to communicate and adapt. Their skin contains tiny crystals that refract light differently, depending on how the cells expand or contract. This creates stunning shades, emerald green, fiery orange, sapphire blue, that serve as emotional billboards. A calm chameleon might be leafy green, while a rival male on the attack could flash neon yellows and reds. Temperature, stress, courtship, and dominance battles all turn their bodies into living light shows. It's this alien charisma that made them prized pets across the world, and especially in the United States. But like so many exotic animals, they've escaped human control and found an unlikely kingdom, the sprawling landscapes of Florida. Florida, a paradise for outsiders. Florida is the world's ground zero for runaway reptiles. Its subtropical climate, endless food sources, and fragmented suburbs create the perfect stage for creatures that don't belong there. Today, the Sunshine State hosts more non-native reptile and amphibian species than anywhere else on Earth. Iguanas sunbathe on seawalls. Pythons coil through the Everglades. Tokay geckos chirp on neighborhood walls at night. And quietly, almost invisibly, chameleons cling to branches in backyards and citrus groves. Unlike the infamous Burmese python or Argentine tegu, however, chameleons don't slither across counties or devour native wildlife in alarming numbers. They're slow, careful climbers, moving within small ranges. Their survival in Florida isn't due to natural expansion, it's because people put them there. The pet pipeline. For decades, the exotic pet trade relied heavily on importing wild-caught chameleons. Tens of thousands arrived by plane from Madagascar, Yemen, and Tanzania, destined for pet shops or private collectors. Veiled chameleons and panther chameleons were especially popular, thanks to their vivid colors. A single shipment might contain hundreds stuffed into crates with minimal care. Mortality was high, but the survivors sold for hundreds of dollars each. These animals often slipped into the environment through carelessness, neglect, or deliberate release. Florida, with its labyrinth of orchards, nurseries, and suburban greenery, became their accidental new home. Some reptile dealers even rented houses that doubled as makeshift breeding warehouses. Cages stacked in garages or backyards sometimes broke down, and suddenly the surrounding trees were alive with escaped chameleons. Neighbors began spotting them clinging to fruit trees and fences, strange alien creatures blending with the leaves. Hunters of the night. But how did this turn into an underground obsession? That's where the herpers enter the picture. Herpers, short for members of herpetological societies, are hardcore reptile and amphibian enthusiasts. For them, nightlife means grabbing headlamps and flashlights, sneaking into suburban hedgerows, and scanning for lizards. The trick is simple. When a chameleon sleeps, it often turns a paler shade of green or even white. Against the deep green of Florida foliage, the reptile glows faintly under a flashlight, betraying its position. Whole groups of herpers began tracking secret chameleon spots across South Florida. They whispered locations in riddles, swapped clues in obscure online forums, and fiercely guarded their discoveries like treasure maps. To outsiders, the practice looked bizarre, grown adults prowling neighborhoods at midnight with beams of light cutting through the trees. But to insiders, it was a thrilling game of hide-and-seek with living jewels. Chameleon ranching. Eventually, some realized they could take the hobby a step further, create their own wild colonies. The method was ingenious in its simplicity. Release a handful of adults into a wooded patch behind a house, wait a year or two, and return to harvest their offspring. The animals had been cared for by nature itself. Free food, free shelter, free water. Collectors called it chameleon ranching. At first, ranching was about making money. A breeder could catch dozens of baby chameleons without paying a cent for imports. But over time, it turned into a cultural phenomenon. Some did it purely for the thrill. The idea of returning to a secret grove to find a self-sustaining population of rare lizards was irresistible. Others saw it as a personal challenge, like cultivating a hidden garden of reptiles. The problem? Once word leaked about a ranching site, rival hunters would swoop in and capture every animal they could find. Entire colonies were stripped bare overnight. The cycle repeated as new secret spots were seeded across the state. Florida's reptile crisis. Chameleons are only a small chapter in Florida's larger invasion saga. As of today, over 180 non-native reptiles and amphibians have been recorded in the state. At least 63 species are considered established, meaning they have stable, self-sustaining populations. From Cuban tree frogs to Nile monitor lizards, the list grows every year. Wildlife agencies face an impossible battle. Giant constrictors and destructive iguanas soak up most of the attention and funding. Chameleons, by comparison, cause little obvious harm, so they rank low on the priority list. No major studies have been done to confirm whether they are truly invasive. Without proof of serious damage, they remain in a gray zone, illegal to release, but unmonitored once they're already free. An unexpected twist. Ironically, the rise of Florida's feral chameleons has had one surprising effect: reducing the demand for imports. Buyers increasingly prefer Florida-born animals, which are considered hardier and less stressed than those ripped from the wilds of Madagascar or Yemen. Over time, this may have indirectly lessened pressure on wild populations abroad. That doesn't make the Florida populations good, but it does highlight the complex web of consequences when exotic animals escape into new worlds. What began as a handful of dealers and hobbyists has spiraled into a decades-long underground game of secrecy, profit, and passion. The future of Florida's hidden lizards. So what happens now? On paper, the law is clear. No exotic species should ever be released into Florida's ecosystem. In practice, the situation is much murkier. Chameleons are now part of a semi-permanent landscape of secret colonies, late-night hunts, and whispered rumors. They live in suburban hedges, roadside thickets, and fruit orchards, largely unnoticed by the public. In the end, Florida's wild chameleons have become something more than just pets gone rogue. They're a symbol of the state's endless tug-of-war between nature, trade, and human fascination. Between the glow of flashlights, the guarded secrets of herpers, and the persistence of the animals themselves, it seems clear: the chameleons are here to stay. They will remain in the shadows, half myth, half pet, half invader, an enduring reminder that once exotic creatures slip free into Florida, the story rarely ends the way humans expect.